Sorry, I was on mute. Hi, everyone. How are you? It's Thursday. You know what that means. Africa Thrive Live. Welcome. Today we have a special fire chat edition. Yeah, a virtual fire chat. I tried to put the mood for you guys with some fire in the background. Yeah, we have conversations that we are having with some remarkable entrepreneurs, our guests today. So I'm really, really excited. They're going to tell us how they built their businesses, how some of those businesses failed, how they were able to raise money for their business. I think there's never been a better time as to have these real conversations, yeah, as these, yeah. So you're most welcome. My name is Naomi Kirungu, your host today, and I'd like to get to welcome everyone. I see we have people watching us on YouTube, so welcome YouTube guys. I see our usual crew, the Facebook people, so welcome if you're watching us on Facebook and on YouTube as well. It's really, really great to have you. Yeah. So I'd like to get to know you better. A big reason why we do these sessions is to get to network as entrepreneurs and just make connections, because you never really know. Yeah. So on the comment button, I'd like to get to read where some of you are watching. Yes, I was saying I'd like to get to know where you guys are tuning in from. So please go on the comment section and write to us. Tell us your name, where are you tuned in from, and most importantly, what business is it that you do? Would really like to. I'd like to just get to hear and read your comments. Yeah. As you do that, allow me to introduce us to you in case this is the first time you're interacting with AMI or you've never really heard of AMI. Yeah. So African Management Institute, we exist to enable ambitious businesses from across the continent to thrive. And now we have a very simple mission. We want to help businesses to survive, because in this continent, SMEs are the biggest employers of people in general. Yeah, SMEs have practical solutions to so many, if not all, of our societal problems. So we are just here to exist to help SMEs be able to survive and build thriving businesses. So we currently have 5 programs that you could plug into and just and get to learn and get to network and get to just get practical tools and skills. One are the AMI Business Survival Boot Camps. So these guys are free 2-week programs that we run, and we have 2 topics for you to choose from. The one you're seeing on your screen now is on cash flow management and scenario planning, just to help you manage your cash and think of worst case, best case scenario during this time. And it's a free program that you can do for 2 weeks. Then we have another topic that you can choose from. We have retool and adapt your business. So do this bootcamp if you're thinking of innovating or if you've been disrupted. So if your customers sort of have been disrupted, or you need to look at new customers, if your product in itself or your service has been disrupted, or if you're just looking at creating a new business in general because you feel like the current business you're doing has been disrupted completely. So if that describes you, please do this program. It's free and it's for 2 weeks. Yeah. Then we have the Survive to Thrive program. So this is an extension of the boot camps. It's a 6-month program and it's a deep dive, and we take you through many more topics, not just the ones on the boot camps. We take you through leading in a crisis. We take you through finances at more in depth. We look at strategy and planning at more in depth. We look at your customers and markets at more in depth. Yeah, so there's that program. And then one of my personal favorite, Rise. Yeah, so it's a weekly reflection and meditation session that we have. You know, as entrepreneurs, we carry so many responsibilities, and if you haven't tried meditation, please do. Just, it really helps you sort of unpack, and they are specifically designed by our resident psychologist and co-founder Jonathan Cook. So, and they're available on our app. So it's a great way to just start your day or end your day. Yeah, so that's Rise. And then 4th, we have our newsletter. So we have a team that sits, we put together resources, funding opportunities, any relevant news that is affecting entrepreneurs in Africa is in this newsletter. So you can subscribe, we send it out every week. And last, but definitely not least, are these conversations that we have every Thursday for entrepreneurs. So we bring in experts. Sometimes we're having conversations with entrepreneurs themselves, anything that's affecting entrepreneurs in Africa. And we talk about different topics, and we come so that we learn, we come to network, and we just come, most importantly, or I do to get inspired, yeah, just because running a business is hard, yeah. And so when you get to hear from other entrepreneurs and have a feel of how are they coping, it's an amazing way to just unplug and listen to what other people are doing. So that's why we have these conversations every single Thursday. Yeah. So to plug into any of the 5 things I've mentioned, and this program, these tools and resources are available to you for free. Just go to our website, africanmanagers.org/together, and you can plug into any of those things that I've mentioned. That's what is on your screen now. Yeah. So like I said before, I'd like to get to know you guys better, so keep the comments coming, where you're tuned in from, what business you do. I'd like that's why we exist. That's why we are here. I'd like to get to hear from you. So keep your comments coming. And yeah, I'd love to just get to know what your expectations are. What questions do you have from our guests? So keep those coming on the comment section. Yeah. So let's just get straight into it. So this week I was reflecting. We've had these conversations for a while. It's almost 13 consecutive weeks now. And also we've been working with thousands and thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs from various countries in Africa. And I think one thing I'm personally learning from entrepreneurs themselves is two main things actually. One, running a business is hard. Building and running a business is hard, particularly the mindset it takes to overcome the fear of starting. And once you overcome that fear, just the unexpected things that come your way when you actually start, COVID, competition, anything, so to speak. So just acknowledging the fact that running and starting a business is no mean feat. Yeah, that's something I'm coming to appreciate more and more. And 2 is I'm learning that entrepreneurs have a sort of rhythm or flow to them. Yeah, some people call it grit. I want to call it agility and resilience. Yeah, and these 2 words are especially now being used sort of interchangeably, but they're actually 2 sides of the same coin. Yeah, agility is sort of the ability to respond fast. Resilience is the ability to just respond. And there's this book, I talked about it in a previous Africa Thrive Live, by Nassim Taleb. It's called Anti-Fragile, and he gives the best analogy. Yeah, there's a story he tells, or is it a legend, about Hercules and Hydras, if you've heard it before. So Hercules is chopping the head of the monster Hydras, and when he chops the head off, 2 heads grow in its place. Yeah. So if we are to use this example, resilience is the ability of those 2 heads to grow, like you're being stronger when you're faced with adversity. While agility is how fast the head grows, because it won't help the monster if the head is growing a year later. So you sort of need to respond fast. Yeah. So if there's something that I'm learning now is, you see successful entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who are able to navigate during these times are able to sort of display those 2 traits. And so today I'd like us to talk about these particular traits, and also more importantly to actually hear from actual entrepreneurs on the ground building and growing businesses. Yeah, to just hear their story, where they came from and where they are going. Yeah, so to have this conversation, one, I'd like to get to hear from you. Just feel free on the comment section to share your experience of how it has been trying to either start your business, trying to build a business. The guests we have today, they have over 20 years experience combined in building businesses. So what are some of the questions that you have for them? And also, what has your experience been? What are you learning through this journey we call entrepreneurship? Yeah. So write that on the comment section. I'd really love to read your comments. Yeah. So to have this conversation, I'd like to invite our guests today. So we have James. James has built businesses. He said he's built 13 businesses. 7 of those businesses failed. And through that whole process, he's been able to raise over $1 million in investment. Yeah. So I'm really interested to hear how he was able to do that. And also we have, and James is from Kenya. He's a Kenyan entrepreneur. And we have Travis Gale. So Travis is a South African entrepreneur, and he has traversed this whole continent, yeah, and raised money for vulnerable children. He was smack in the middle of a tsunami in 2004, and then he's brought all these experiences to sort of build a business and support his society. So we have Travis. So please help me welcome James and Travis so that we get this conversation going. And like I've said before, there are so many emojis on your screen, so feel free to use them. We are substituting those for hand claps or anything of that sort. Yeah. So thank you, James and Travis, for joining. James, would you like to introduce yourself to us? Tell us a bit more about who you are, what businesses you do.
Thank you very much, Naomi. Thank you for having me here. As you shared, James is my name. I'm the team leader at Prudential Group. Prudential Group is a investment arm of a number of subsidiaries. Within it, we have been doing this for the last 15 years. We have had our highs and our lows. We have kept going. We are mostly specializing on social investments. We look for social enterprises that we can, that have a real impact to the society. So that is our goal, to give as much impact as possible to the society. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, James. And I'm keen to learn more. Travis, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Naomi. Yeah, my name's Travis. I live down here in South Africa with my wife and my two girls. For the last 15 years, I've been leading a brand called AppleTree. We support organizations to shape and sustain what we call good culture. So the brands and the products that we develop are really aimed at supporting people and organizations, as well as the cities that they live in, to thrive. And that has been my role. Previous to that, or within the AppleTree space, I was focused more on soft skills development. But as I pushed into that space, I became aware of the need for leadership and culture development as well. I have a co-work space here in Durban, which is called The Set, which is really a space for entrepreneurs to gather and to thrive and to do work together. And then I have a brand called The Middle, which is really focused on developing resilience and I suppose endurance in people. And it's also the title of a book that I've just managed to finish and get published and release now in July. So that's what keeps me busy down here in South Africa.
Wow, thanks, Travis. Thanks for that introduction. I know there's so much story beneath that brief introduction that the both of you have given us. So I'd like to, Travis, I'll pull you out, and then we'll hear James' story, and then I'll bring you back, and then you can tell us your story behind these businesses that you guys have done for all those years. Yeah. So James, maybe you could tell us a bit more about how the journey has been. Yeah. How it has been from the beginning. Have you always been an entrepreneur? Why did you even decide to be an entrepreneur? How has that journey been? How are the early days, and how are you able to raise investment? Because I think that's at sort of like the pinnacle of every entrepreneur, when you're able to convince someone and they put money in your business.
Yeah, thank you very much. As I shared, it has been a 15 years journey. I started my first business when I was still in the university, in my final year. My background is in IT, so my rough steer project was my first business, which was a SACCO management information system, which by then we were able to computerize, or rather to automate the SACCO processes. By then, back in 2005, most of the SACCOs, microfinance institutions, were not automated by then. So it was a huge opportunity for us, and that is how we were able to start off my first business. Within 2 years, we had identified the niche, and we had a couple of customers, and we were already generating some revenues. But I can tell you for a fact, when we started off, everything was uncertain, like any other business. We didn't have a customer at hand. We didn't have. We were not able to define the market. We didn't have the working capital. We didn't have an office. All those things, all the odds were with us. But within 2 years of continually doing this thing, we were able to crack it and to have some space within the market. So I brought some people on board by then, some developers, software developers. We started SACCO trainings. We partnered with the Ministry of Cooperatives to go to the ground and talk to these SACCOs where they need to automate their processes. And everything paid up, and we got some good base. So by 2008, 3 years into the business, we had all indications that whatever we were doing is not in vain, and we were progressing very well. So in 2007, 2008 was a setback for us. We didn't have much business, especially in 2008. And we had to change our model from supplying the SACCO system as a product to ideally offering a service to the SACCOs. And again, whatever transpired in Kenya after the 2007-2008 elections taught us that we need to diversify our businesses, because by then we were only relying on the IT field. And that is when we decided to venture into other areas. And so from then up to around 2014, we were able to venture into like 10 more enterprises in financial services, in motor industry, in real estate, in stock trading, all those kind of ventures. But unfortunately, we didn't know what was awaiting us. We failed and failed terribly because we didn't put our cards right. We didn't define who is ideally our customer. We didn't define the market size. We didn't take our time to profile our competition. We didn't take our time to define our distribution channels, the things that matter when you're starting off a business. But by 2015, we had identified areas, 6 areas that we can be able to push on, and we can be able to grow them. And that is what we call Prudential Group as of today, in financial services, in fintech, in IT and IT services, in retail, in convenience stores, in real estate in a different way, and those kind of things. That is what we have packaged together to call the Prudential Group. So then all these entities, they give us the strength. We can be able to explain our story in a more bigger way, not just a startup, but we can be able to explain in a more bigger way. And that is how we are able to convince the potential investors, whether debt or equity or convertible debts, or even partnerships with the market leaders, that we can be able to come together and offer these values to our customers, or to our core-owned customers, or to joint customers. Because one of the biggest challenges in partnerships and driving investors is ideally showing them value, that you are joining a journey that you will be able to derive some good value out of it. A value in terms of business growth, or value in terms of profitability, or value in terms of exit. At the point of the exit, they'll be able to make some good returns. So that was the biggest challenge. Then with a bigger investment arm behind the scenes, we can be able to front our subsidiaries to the different potential investors, and that's how we're able to attract investments. It's never easy, but with the resilience and continually doing this thing every day, of course, you will get some good success. We are not yet there, but we are pushing harder. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. James, you've said so many things. And the first one I immediately picked is, I was having a conversation with an entrepreneur, and he said, I was like, disruption, things have changed with COVID. And then he said, the thing is with entrepreneurship, you're disrupted all the time. It's just that with COVID, most of us have been disrupted, so we are feeling it. So when you've said something about what happened with sort of elections, and you had to rethink your business model, and you thought of diversifying, I think I'd like you to speak more on that as well. And also to entrepreneurs who might be asking is it okay to have one business? Should I just focus on one? Because when you are starting, you just had one business. Or is it okay to just do 100 or 10 of them at the same time? So I'd like you to sort of speak to that. And please, people, bring in your questions for James. I'd like to bring in Travis, and then James will have you back with Travis, just to get to hear as well where he's coming from and how he has been able to build his business. So, Travis, thanks for joining back. And I know we have read on the poster how you sort of traversed the continent at a young age, and you raised money for vulnerable children. You're smack in the middle of a tsunami. Maybe tell us a bit about how your 15-year journey has been.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, when I was in high school, I remember being a dreamer. I wanted to do something significant with my life straight away. And I was very attracted to the idea of cause-driven adventure. And I suppose it was an interesting entry into entrepreneurship in that I essentially had an idea, or Steve and I had an idea, the chap that I cycled with, and we needed to raise funds to support that idea. And through some sponsorships that we were able to raise, and through the finance of friends and family who we approached, we managed to set ourselves up to ride a bicycle across 4 continents in the year 1999. So our trip took us through South Africa and across Australia, and then across the United States of America, and then down the UK and Europe, and then back down Africa through to Johannesburg, where we started. And the mission was to raise 1 million rand for vulnerable children here in KwaZulu-Natal. We successfully raised 1.7 million for those children. And I think the principle that I really learned from that trip, and when I talk about the tour to other people, I very rarely spend a lot of time talking about the start, and I very rarely spend a lot of time talking about the finish. Those 2 days were exceptionally significant, because it is great to pitch up at a start line. I think all of us as entrepreneurs, when we have ideas, the day that we pitch up at the start line is a significant day. But it's the middle, it's that territory that sits between the start and the finish, where the rubber hits the road, and where it can get quite messy. And I think one of the stories I like to recount is on the 5th day of the tour, the 5th of January 1999, I had to cycle between 2 towns, the town of Bloemfontein and the town of Trompsburg in the Karoo. And I remember getting 30 Ks into what was meant to be a 124-kilometer ride. And all of a sudden, I realized that what I had signed up for, the magnitude of this cycle tour and what I was actually going to have to do, became a reality. And the doubts that crept into my mind around whether I could do this, whether I had the strength to finish this, and also being completely naive as an 18-year-old around what it took to cycle around the world. I had a very close moment of checking out and escaping and giving up. So I say to entrepreneurs and anyone that steps up on a start line, every single start is going to be followed by a day 5 moment. There'll come a time when your expectation and the reality, they don't line up. And it's that very tough moment where you find yourself standing on the side of the highway, just wondering whether or not you can do this. And that's one moment that I really draw from every time I reach a tough moment as an entrepreneur, or as a husband or a father or a citizen, whatever it might be, is what do we do when the going gets tough, and how do we sustain ourselves through this resilience that you talk about to move forward towards our goals.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, Travis. And when you said that, I immediately went to sort of speaking to part of our audience who are thinking of starting a business, and that fear is real, yeah. And even for those who've started, especially now, it's sort of easy, what you've called it, to sort of give up. And just to help me answer all these questions that we have, just to build from the wealth of experience that both you and James have, I'd like to bring back James so that we start tackling these hard questions that we have together. So maybe James, I could start with you, where you've sort of talked about your businesses and how you started and failed many things. So maybe we can talk about your failure in particular, and talk about what do you think works and what doesn't work when it comes to building a business.
I think I would wish to bring the definition of failure. Failure is part of success, and without fail, you can probably not succeed. That is what I strongly believe. And you can't fear failure if you really want to succeed. You need to face it and move on and be ready for the same. And I would like to encourage the fellow entrepreneurs or the upcoming entrepreneurs that uncertainty is what we face every day. There is nobody who will actually define to you or or show you how tomorrow will be. It is upon you to define the path and to walk the path. And planning too much does not mean that you'll not fail. Actually, experimenting more is more progressive than just planning how you will not fail. So that is the spirit of entrepreneurship. And my running for the first 5 or 10 years of entrepreneurship, there is one thing that we failed to acknowledge. We focused too much of our energy and our resources on running the business. So the business was everything, but we forgot the key component of that business is the customer. So we didn't put too much emphasis on the customer, but we put too much emphasis on the business. Where is our office? How does our office furniture look like? What is our address? Those are the things that are really bothering our mind. When you put an advert out there, what people would think we are and those kind of things, what the bank thinks that we are, and will they give us money because of their perception towards us? Those are the wrong things to worry about. You should be worried about the customer and the customer value. What value are you offering to your customer? And if you crack that part that you want to venture into financial services, and the value that you want to deliver to the market is financial inclusion, and you want to offer simplified financial services to the unbanked population, for example, or you want to offer the unbanked businesses an opportunity to bank their businesses because they don't have the necessary KYC to do formal banking. When you focus on the customer and the customer needs and the values that you want to offer to the customer, all the other things that pertains to your business becomes inconsequential, because the right partner in form of a bank will come to you, the right partner in form of an investor will come to you, the right partner to partner with will come your way, and you'll be able to grow. And disruptions will always be there, and disruptions are about to happen every time. 2007, 2008, we had a good disruption, and we got some good lessons out of it. Today, this year, 2020, we have a super disruption, and we are taking good lessons from the same. But there is a key focus that is not being disrupted. Who is the customer? The value that you're offering is not being disrupted. Maybe how the disruption is happening is we can no longer meet in an office. We can no longer hold a physical training with our staff. We can no longer probably hold our customers in one location and market our services to them. But the value that we're offering to our customers have not changed. If it's financial inclusion, that has not changed. The deliveries, the delivery channels to our customers, that have not changed. We are still meeting with our customers either online or via SSD or via an app. All those things are happening. Because if you look at the industries that have been disrupted most, especially the education sector, I don't think the education sector was ready for any form of disruptions. The kids had to go to school and had to sit in a classroom. Today, it is not possible. They are not able to offer their value to the customer because all those things were not thought out then. And if they can be able to configure that, offering education to our kids still remains a good value to offer to the society.
Yeah. Thanks for that, James. Travis, I want to bring in my co-host, like our audience, pretty soon. But I don't know if you have anything to say on that. On what do you think? What works or what doesn't work when you're trying to run or build a business?
Look, I think when it comes to the aspects of resilience, for me, the types of brands that I've built have always had one thing at its center. From a purpose point of view, we want to see people, we want to see organizations thrive. So every brand that we've created has been very entrenched in the conviction that an organization is a place that can either inhibit human potential or it can squash it can grow and develop human potential. So when you are convinced about a concept, when you are convicted about a need in society, then you'll navigate the tough terrain in order to create and establish those brands, because it's not just about the bottom line, but it's also about the difference that you're making in society. And so my type of entrepreneurship has really been a combination of been able to create a successful business that does have a healthy cash flow. But at the same time, what's fueled that is a real sense of purpose around the fact that if I don't do the type of work that I do, that society's going to miss out on something that's really important for it to grab onto. So
Yeah.
I completely echo James's thoughts, but hanging on to purpose and hanging on to a strong vision and being connected to your values is critical.
Yeah. Let me quickly bring in our audience and just acknowledge them really quickly. Let me scroll back. There's so many questions coming. So let me start from the top. Laura is watching us on YouTube from South Africa. Meshach on YouTube. Delivering Man Africa. Mimi Rachel. Kibe Minor on YouTube. Susan, I'm just scrolling to see questions. We have Peter Mwangi watching us on LinkedIn, and Stephen Dimba. So here is a question from Meshach Ayuo on YouTube. So it's directed to you, James. James, in your journey, have you worked with partners that after a time, we've pulled it up, have you worked with partners that after a time want to throw you out of your business? If yes, how did you handle it?
This is a very common tactic from the potential investors, and you need to realize that the investors are not your family members, and you need to realize that everybody, they are coming on the table with the intention to make good returns, and if making good returns means eliminating you, they'll go for that shot. How not to find yourself in that direction is purely based on how you structure the deal. If these investors are coming as shareholders who are equity partners, you need to come up with a shareholders agreement that these are the responsibilities of the shareholders. If they are coming as debt providers, so they're only providing you with money, and then the business will pay them profits out of the much they will invest, and they demand to be sitting in your board, for example, because that is a common request from the potential investors. Then you need to come up with a board charter. What are the responsibilities and the do's and don'ts of a board member? So you need to come up with all those structures. And if they want to do a convertible debt, meaning they'll provide you debt for now, you shall provide them, you shall pay them profit, you shall pay them interest out of the debt for the next 3 years or the next 5 years. But after 5 years, they'll convert that debt to become equity, which is now they become part of your shareholders. Then you need to define what are the terms of that conversion debt. At what point will it convert? At what rate will it convert? At what will be the share value? Who will determine the valuation of your company? Are they having the final call whether to convert or not to convert? Or you as a founder, you have the final call, because you can negotiate to have a convertible debt, yes, but after 5 years you realize these are the wrong partners. You don't have the same chemistry. Then you don't want to convert them to become your shareholders. Then who is holding the final call? That should be the founders. And I think all those things, you define them at the point of sign up when you're defining the structure.
James, I want to before you go into the details of the actually investment, maybe I could just take you back to, you have been able to successfully raise investment for your business. Like, you've convinced a bunch of people that this idea works, and they gave you a lot of money for that. How are you able to do that? What's the one thing that sort of triggered that?
The number one key thing that you need to show these people is that you are actually generating value out of your business. Your business value in 2 ways: that your business is growing. Today, the valuation was 1 million shillings, and tomorrow, if we continually do this, the valuation of this business will actually be 3 million shillings. That is number one. Number two is that this business is profitable. Remember, by the business growing from a value of 1 million shillings to a value of 3 million shillings does not necessarily mean that the business is generating profits. But is it be able to book more customers? Are these customers taking up your services? Are they paying for those services? Are they looking for those services anyway? Then the model number two is to show that your business is profitable. That if you put your money here, Mr. Investor, Today, our profitability is 10 million shillings. With another investment of 100 million shillings, we'll be able to triple our profits to 30 million shillings, for example. And you're supposed to take a 30% out of these shares. So they can be able to see real value from it. And they can be able to see that this business is actually sustainable. You'll be able to do it today, and you'll be able to do it tomorrow, and you'll be able to do it in the next 10 years to come. And there is no way that that business will die just a natural death because some factors have come around and you can't be able to continue. And the most bigger thing that I see investors looking for is a market size. As in, today you are offering a service to this pool of customers, maybe 10,000 customers. But what is the total addressable market? See, maybe 10,000 is the maximum that you can get. For example, if you want to offer a service to Kenyan public transport providers, the so-called matatus, they have a fixed number. Maybe there are 50,000 of those. What will happen when you want to target 100,000 customers? Will you be able to expand your business? Or can you be able to expand your business across border? If you go to Tanzania, you'll still find the same opportunities. If you go to Uganda and Rwanda and other African countries or the other countries of the world, you'll be able to see those opportunities. So what is your addressable market? And finally, is when your business grows, what does it become? When your business grows, what does it become? Because if you open a kiosk today and you show your investors that if my business grows by you investing into this business, it will be able to become a supermarket. And these are the systems and structures and strategies and people that are brought on board so that my kiosk can be able to grow to become a supermarket. Then the investor would wish to be part of that journey that we started as a kiosk and we are becoming a supermarket. But if your business starts with a kiosk and the business idea ends with a kiosk, then it will be very hard to convince any outsider to put money into your business.
Yeah, James, I think we just those 4 points, you should write an article. Yeah, the things to do, or a book for that instance. Travis, there's a question here for you from YouTube from Kamikaze Frida. So she says, as an entrepreneur that dreams to make impact, we've pulled it up, resilience is a must. I dreamt just like Travis, and raising funds is quite tough for our incubation center. So some advice perhaps from Travis.
Sure. Well, I think there's a lot to learn from James in the raising of funds. My 15-year journey, I started my entrepreneurship journey straight off the back of studying, and I chose to, at the time, not seek out investment and basically live off a small amount of money as possible and then grow from there. So again, the same sort of adage as what James has said. I won't repeat those great points, but it's about being able to add value and add value into the different sectors that you want to add. So for me as a consultant, our types of businesses, incubation centers, consultancies that provide services into organizations like us, where we're providing services under the banner of culture and human resources, it's very important for you to show that you've got a viable product offering that you can bring into those spaces and that there's a return on investment. And it can sometimes be quite tricky, especially if you are selling a soft skill, or if you're selling a kind of service and an offering that isn't necessarily directly related to the bottom line. And it's important to just get very clear on how you pitch your business, how you are able to link the solutions that you bring into tangible benefits that sometimes may not necessarily be directly related to the bottom line, but impact other issues or areas around the organization that contribute towards that organization becoming more profitable or a higher performing organization. So in an incubation center, what are some of the things that are part of the ecosystem that you can sell to investors and attract kind of a real viable reason for the difference that space can make or that consultancy can make?
Yeah. Travis, there's another question here. I'd like you to put your consultant hat, because we are privileged to have you here as a consultant, from Nyuguto Kagai on YouTube. they're asking, let me try to pull it up. How do you build customer reputation? Maybe you blow it off as a new starter. Like, and maybe James, you could chime in as well after Travis. Like, is there redemption once you make a mistake as an entrepreneur when it comes to your customer, who we said is king?
Yeah, I think I think James's answer set would be quite interesting in this from a consultancy point of view. It's very important, and it's a trap that we sometimes fall in as new consultants, is that we oversell, and we set ourselves up to underdeliver. Being completely honest, I often say yes, I can, whereas I don't necessarily know how I'm going to. I'm going to figure that out, build the plane while it's flying. So there is wisdom in being very clear on upfront expectations that you as the consultant are setting up between you and the client, and being very clear on the outcomes that whatever it is that you're bringing into that space, your work is going to deliver. And then keeping the conversations going with the client and being very honest about how that work is going. And to your point around agility, making the necessary adjustments. But I think it's admitting when you might be out of your depth. As a consultant, I have leveraged on a collaborative network model rather than just doing all of the work myself. So I'm always very clear on the fact that what you're asking me to do, somebody else can do that better. And so I'm going to put them forward. In terms of reputational damage and risk, to James's earlier point, failure is part of success. If you can walk away from that with humility and reflect on how you failed and why you did, and then put those learnings back into place. I've done some work that I just didn't do well, and the client has brought me back and given me another go at moving forward, because integrity and values and connection is actually a very big part of the sell, not just what you actually do for them from a product and offering point of view.
Yeah. James, I know you said that we learn from failure, but I don't think Kagai's customer is willing to listen to that. I was just learning. So maybe what are some of the practical things that he can do, just from your experience, even if it's one thing that you'd advise him to do in terms of just trying to redeem that relationship?
It's good to note that as an entrepreneur, you're only given one opportunity by the customer to make the first impression. There is hardly never a second chance to make this first impression. But either way, you need to realize that a customer is still a human being. He's still an emotional being. They can still reason with you. They can still listen to you. You need to especially when you know exactly what you're offering to the customer in terms of value, and you are double sure that they actually need that value and they need it for their personal use or for their business use. And maybe you messed up on the presentation, or you overpromised, or you are not able to deliver on time, because those things are about to happen. Even customers, they mess up. Maybe they were not able to pay on time, or they were not able to meet their deadlines on their part, because both of you are human beings. You only need to face them and explain to them exactly where you messed up, how you are going to rectify, and moving forward. But one precaution I give to the entrepreneurs: you are better off at the promising than over-promising. I know it feels good to overpromise that you'll have this thing by end of business today, but I think if you offer them within 24 hours and you're able to deliver the same within the same working day, it sounds better to the customer than when you say by end of day, then you call them by 6 p.m. and tell them, oh, excuse me, I'll only be able to deliver by tomorrow morning by 7, because they're human beings and they are running their normal lives like you're running as well.
Yeah. And I think just for what it's worth, I talked to an entrepreneur on this Tribe Lives, and then he said now there's a lot of empathy going on. People are more empathetic now because of this restriction. So, but I like what you've said. So we do have a lot of people acknowledging both you, Travis, and James, and what you're saying. Lynn on Facebook, Peter just acknowledging what Travis is saying, and basically, because I know you can't see these comments, they're just saying how brilliant and smart you guys are. Yeah, so you're doing very well. So we have We do have a question here. I just got feedback about my internet. I hope it's okay now. James, we have a question here from Mary Mbugwa. Before I go into my other questions, she's asking if you could share more about your social enterprise experience. I guess it means, how do you, maybe I can paraphrase Mary's question to how do you build a business where you're trying to make money? And feel free to Travis to chime in. How do you build a business where you're trying to make money and make profit, but at the same time, you're trying to build an impact? And I think, Travis, this is your area of expertise. How, because I think it's just easier said than done. In terms of you're trying to make money and then you're trying to sort of impact the society. What are some of the practical things to do? How do you sort of balance? Because Mary, for instance, is saying that she works with ex-convicts and former sex workers. So it's really very impactful in terms of what she wants to do. But so I'm sure her heart is there. But at the same time, you're trying to make money, yeah, and making this thing to be profitable. What's your advice for social entrepreneurs like that? How do you make this idea sort of stick and become profitable?
Thank you, Naomi. I want to clarify the difference between social entrepreneurship and non-governmental organization kind of operation. A social entrepreneur is more motivated by the social impact beyond just making profits, because it is practically possible to actually book your profits and still deliver positive social impact to the society. But what you need to identify in your business model, because I think for Mary's question, the difference is how she will package her business model. The difference is, where are her revenue streams? For sure, she's working with ex-convicts and commercial sex workers. Fine, then be able to transform. That is very nice, as from a social impact angle. But what are her revenue streams? After doing that, how does she expect the packaging that activity as a business? Where are the commercial revenue streams from that business? And I think that is what most of the social entrepreneurs miss, not counting the revenue stream aspect. Because whatever you do, you need to define where your revenues will come from.
Yeah. Travis, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I think, in terms of, so our business certainly is aimed at making a social impact, and our work can be applied into, for example, an organization or into a school or into an NGO. I've never applied it into sort of more hectic settings, like for example, a prison. But for me, it's really about diversifying exactly what you expect from those different sectors. So I know that within our industry, I'm able to charge a certain rate in the corporate sector, which means that I can give a certain benefit into the education sector or into the NGO sector. And so diversifying the sectors that you play in means that you're able to charge different rates or to bring different values into those different sectors. And that allows your business model from a cash flow point of view to become more sustainable. Those that are operating in sectors that really have limited budgets to pay for your services, then you've got to think very cleverly around, how close you are skirting the line towards being more of an NGO that needs to be funded by an external benefactor in order to be able to supply the services that you do. Or in South Africa, for example, linking your work to some sort of CSI initiative, so social responsibility, and tapping into other revenue streams, like an organization's contribution into those CSR funds. But for me, it's really been about diversifying the sectors and then being able to lower my rates in one sector and maintain my rates at a higher level in another.
Yeah. I'd like us to go. I see some questions here that are more of personal questions, that in terms of just character around entrepreneurship. So I'd like us to move to a more personal level and talk about just you as an entrepreneur, not necessarily your business, but just you as Travis, you as James. At this present time, what do you want to achieve as an entrepreneur? What is that thing that you just want to sort of be remembered for?
So for me, I think, oh, sorry, James.
Go ahead, Travis, go ahead.
I think for me, the key thing that I want to be able to do is to create a platform. James and I both use the word group as part of our brand name. So the AppleTree group is essentially a collection of individuals and brands, you know, and if I can create a platform that other people and brands can stand on, that they can find community in, that they can draw the right skills and resources from to be able to make a significant difference, then that's really a big win for me. So a platform is one thing that I definitely want to be able to create. And then I think from a self-care point of view, I really feel like I will have won if I'm able to create that platform and do significant work and create significant brands, but at the same time maintain the capacity to bring quality emotions into my family and to parent my children well, to be a great husband to my wife. And so I balance the entrepreneurial business building skills and tools with what I also invest into myself. And to those that have asked questions around social entrepreneurship, often it's about giving. So the question becomes, how do you support or create the foundation of high capacity to be able to give quality emotions, not just into the sectors that you work, but also into the social constructs that you are involved with on a daily basis.
Yeah, I like that. And just for what it's worth, I feel like now, especially now with this disruption, when you look at silver linings, for me, it has been sort of just, it's easier to balance your sort of work-life culture. If you look deeper, there's something in there now, an opportunity to just balance it out. And I like that. James?
As a social entrepreneur, of course, my biggest motivation is on creating the positive social impact to the society. And my end game is to create a platform, a business platform that can be able to retrieve James as a person, that we can be able to create enough employment, we can be able to create enough social capital, and we can be able to make our customers and our users of our services more happy and more proud of what you're doing. And when I'm walking on the streets, they can say, these James have helped us to achieve A, B, C, D, and has helped us to solve part of our social problems, like commuting, or financial, or healthcare, and those kind of things. And outliving the business, outliving myself does not mean when I stop existing, but when I'm still alive and very energetic, I can be able to see the business progressing while I'm on the background. And being a philanthropist, to give back to the society without expecting any returns, as I am today. Yeah.
And but I'll ask this question. This is more of a selfish question because I love Oprah, and she likes to ask this question, and it makes people sort of, the answers people give is always so remarkable. So Travis, from your 15 years experience, James as well, looking back, like just where you are now and looking back, what are you most grateful for?
The power that we have as human beings to create, I think is phenomenal. You know, the fact that we can have an idea in our head and we can take that concept and it can literally turn into a practical, living, breathing business or project that employs other people, that makes a difference. I think that's what I'm most grateful for. I'm grateful for the fact that we have that unbelievable power to actually create, that we've got this incredible, intuition and sense into the needs that exist out in society, and that we can actually see the work of our hands and hold on to something that started as a concept in our head.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, James?
I'm very, very grateful that I dared to start. That is point number one, that I dared to start. And with all the uncertainties that I dared to start, and the family members that we work with, the family support that we work with, both my siblings and my wife and kids who are watching now, the support that they give towards the growth of this enterprise. So that makes everything. But there's one thing that fascinates me, that most of the people undermine the ability of a human being. I think we have the ability to do more and more, as my partner have shared, and we don't need to be limited by our imaginations. I think we have the ability to do bigger things that we can just imagine. And most of the time we undermine the impact of the things that we start, the long-term impact of the things that we start, and we focus too much on the short-term impact that those things will create. For example, if you start a business today, as much as 20 years is not visible from today, or 10 years is not visible from today, but most of the time we don't put a lot of effort to think about how my 10 years or what 20 years would mean to people, to the society, to the government, to the structures. We don't take our time to think about the 20 and 20 years. We only think about the next 2 years. I'll resign my job. I think I'm glad I'll have my business. But beyond you having your own business and beyond employing 2 or 3 people, what will be the impact of that in the next 10 or 20 years? I think we undermine that fact, and it's an area that we need to focus on. Of course, we have no visibility of how our 15th year will be, like today, how things will be, how small or how big the failures that we'll have on the way, and the resilience that we'll have on the way. We didn't have that visibility because we were concentrating on how we'll survive tomorrow, how we'll pay our next month's rent, how we'll pay our next month's payroll. But when you look backwards and you join the dots backwards, then you realize how impactful this journey has been, not to ourselves only, but to the people who have been able to interact with our ecosystem.
Yeah. Well, I'll just take a quick question from our audience. There's a question here for you, James. How long should I take before I accept and move on if my business is not picking up? Is it 1 year, 2 years? What is the average time for getting out of a survival stage for most businesses from Faith?
This is a tricky question, and from my experience, I have learned that you can actually see a business that will not progress beyond the first day of starting off the business from the paper. Even before you start, you can be able to subject your business to something I call the structured walkthrough, looking at all some 12 components of the business, and you should realize that you will struggle at some point. And I can be able to guide that person to go to Google and Google for business model canvas. If they can see the business model canvas, it has some 12 areas, and they can be able to answer all those. If they can be able to answer all the questions within that box, then that is what I call a structured walkthrough, and they can be able to determine whether their business will be able to survive in the next day or the next day but one. But either way, you'll be able to answer all those questions, and you're on the streets, you're already on the trenches, you have started your business, and 1 year down the line, it's not working, and it is not working, and all factors are showing you negative, and you're heading to the south. But entrepreneurship is not being an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is not the same as being a businessman. A businessman will only be driven by the ability to book profits out of that business. But entrepreneurship is deeper than that. The drive to it is deeper than just the profits. And I think the social impact motivation should go beyond the profits and everything. And I have seen, my friends, being able to raise capital for businesses that are not profitable. Because they are doing something meaningful, they can be able to show the future trajectory where we are headed, and they can be able to show that this business will actually be something in the next 2 or 3 years. But in the Kenyan statistics, it shows that most of the business fail within the first 3 years of existence. They'll be able to define whether they'll survive or they'll not survive. So in the past 3 years and things are not working out, you can stretch it to the 4th year and the 5th year, but things are not working kabisa, then there'll be no other way than just to fold their shop. But failing is part of success. So you should not fear to fail. Yes.
Yeah. And for those who are wondering what kabisa kabisa mean, it's actually Kenyan for completely loosely translated, like, yeah. Travis, there's a question here for you. I know we are almost out of time, but just one question for you. So you have an admirer, like someone who likes to travel, yeah? So if I want to travel and do something close to what you're doing, Travis, what would be the one piece of advice you would tell me before I start? I don't know if that's too ambiguous. Feel free to take it.
Look, I mean, so there's various forms of travel. So in my life, I did the round the world cycle tour, which was what I call cause-driven adventure. So there's that option that's available to you where you decide to travel for a cause. Normally that includes doing something in the endurance space, I guess, where you take on a big challenge across different continents and countries and you raise funds or you raise awareness. Then there's the other form of travel which I've done, which I call almost culture immersion. I chose to go and live on an island in Thailand because I wanted to experience living amongst a culture that was very different from me. When most of my friends were, for example, going to live in London, I felt like I wanted to go and be in a space that was just very different from me from a perspective, from a religious point of view. And then I guess there's just the travel that you do where you seek out an opportunity to go and visit a country and see that country and experience it and bring those experiences home. All of those come with a different set of factors because it's about duration, it's about funds, it's about concept, and depending on which one you want to do, I recommend you then just start a vision board and start putting down some ideas and allow those ideas to take shape. And then when you really get clear, then to James's points, at some point you're going to have to say, well, that's the date, that's what I'm going to do, and put it out there and make it happen.
Yeah, and just a quick follow-up to that. Just from all your travels, and I know you told me you were in Thailand when the tsunami happened. What's just out of all your travels? What's the one business? What's the one thing that's more business oriented that you've learned as an entrepreneur?
Look, the tsunami experience taught me that life can change in 12 seconds. You know, we were all living in paradise just another day, and in 12 seconds, 2 30-foot waves came around the corner and wiped us out. You know, so for me, very often we can get ourselves as entrepreneurs and as people, we can get hooked up by the wrong things. You know, we can end up being distracted. We can end up chasing after things which really don't make much difference at all. And that tsunami has always been at the back of my mind as something that encourages me to keep the main thing. You know, what's important? What am I going to put my hand to? What does it mean to live a significant life? What does it mean to make a difference? What do I want my businesses to achieve? You know, bearing in mind that we only have this breath and the next breath, and this day and the next day to focus on.
Yeah. So I know I said the last one, but this is completely the last question because I never want to leave the audience feeling like I had one more question. I think this is a good question from Abel Quizera watching on YouTube. So basically the question is, thanks, James. It takes long. Okay, let me get to the question. The principal key for success or getting more customers, basically. Maybe James, you could take this, or Travis as well, around how do you get more customers for your business? So sort of how do you build traction? You get an idea, it works. How do you sort of build traction to make it stick? Does any of you want to answer that?
Let me answer the first part of the principal keys of being successful. And success is a variable. You can define success in different ways, but there are key principles key principles that will drive that success. However you define that success, and one of them is discipline. The discipline to stick to whatever you want to achieve, and to remain focused on what you want to achieve. Whatever the case, whatever the challenges on the way, whatever the speed bumps, but you need to remain focused. And finally, you need to have passion for the same. Is this something that you like doing, or is this something you are doing because there is a probability of booking a customer and booking some profit? What if there is no customer and there is no profit? Would you still do the same? I think passion is very critical. And the second part is how do you continually get more customers? I think that it is not correct to assume that customers will just come to you. You need to. It is not accidental that customers come your way. It is a very deliberate effort that you get customers to your way. And the only way to get customers in your business is to promise them real value that is worth them paying for, and they can feel that the amounts that they are paying for that value is actually worthwhile their time and worthwhile their investment. And they can be able to trust you that you will be able to deliver value and deliver it within the right pricing, and they'll find you there tomorrow. You are not just booking them today because there is a pandemic, and tomorrow when they look for you, they can't be able to find you because you have already booked your profits and you have disappeared. So they need to trust that you are here for the long haul, and they can be able to get you anytime.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time. And even as your last words, I'd like you to speak about entrepreneurs who feel now that they have been disrupted, and they are very, very uncertain about the future. I know we're talking about agility and this ability to sort of bounce back. Maybe you could speak to that as your closing remarks. What would your advice be to an entrepreneur who's been disrupted and is very, very unsure of their future? Travis, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. I have a line that I really hold on to, and I keep reminding myself of it, and it's this idea that we as human beings were made for tough terrain. And I think that as entrepreneurs, if you've chosen to be an entrepreneur, then you were made for tough terrain. And I think that it's a mistake to think that entrepreneurs were designed to build businesses and to build solutions in good times. Entrepreneurs are essentially there to provide solutions. They are there to work within crisis, to work within exceptionally pressurized situations, to look into something that someone who's not an entrepreneur might look and go, there's no opportunity there. But for an entrepreneur, they see opportunity, they see solutions in incredibly difficult times. So in a way, when we accept the fact that we are in a very big crisis and we are being disrupted, we then bring ourselves into an emotional place where we're able to look at the scenario that we're in right now and go, well, as an entrepreneur, I was designed for tough terrain. I've got the ability to create. I can see solutions that other people can't. And in actual fact, crisis is what I was designed for. And when you acknowledge that within yourself, and as James said, when you don't undermine your imagination and what you've got to put down, you'll start to see solutions start to crop up in the midst of what's going on around us. So don't lose hope. Maintain that self-belief. Allow yourself to just clear your mind and to pause and just to look at what's going on, listen, ask questions, and the solutions will come, the innovations will come, the pivots will come that you need to put in place. That's it from me there.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Travis. And maybe in case we want to follow you or get in touch with you, how can we do that?
Yeah, so my main business is called the AppleTree Group. So my email is travis@appletreegroup.co.za. You're welcome to share my details with anyone. And then as part of the AppleTree Group, my other brand, The Middle, is The Middle Journey. I can send you the social media handles for that as well. So AppleTree Group and The Middle are really the two brands that I spend a huge amount of time building and growing. But yeah, that email address that I gave you is my core one. Yeah.
Thanks, Travis. And Ashley, I'm sure Ashley will type it down on the comments for everyone to see. So thank you, Travis, and thank you for taking time. James, would you like to give closing remarks and maybe speak to an entrepreneur who their business has been disrupted, they're very uncertain about the future, and they look at you and they think, oh my goodness, is it luck? is it? How do I get there? Yeah. So would you like to speak to that?
Yeah. One advice is the entrepreneur to look at the disruption as more of an opportunity than something bad that is happening to their business. And if they were to look at the disruption as an opportunity, then they need to go back to their business models. As in, this is a time to go back to the business models and look at all the areas that you had promised, you had structured, the way you had structured your business that you'll be able to run when things are good and when they are bad. And I have said this before, and I wish to repeat the same, that fundraising is not a solution to poor business models. Going out there to look for more money is not a solution to poor business models. You need to look at your business model before you start looking at fundraising as your solution. And if you are to look at fundraising as a way to grow, is to grow to the next level, but not rather to pay for your current bills, to pay your current rent that you are not able to pay, or to pay your current payroll that you are not able to pay, but rather how to grow to new markets, how to grow to new products, and how to do product developments, for example, but not to sort your current problem. So as I've shared, it is time to go back to the business models, to look at how to take advantage of the pandemic as the disruptions, how to probably diversify your investments, or rather how to venture into other new areas that were not visible before the pandemic, and through that you'll be able to build a sustainable business model that will not be disrupted in the future. And you need to realize not all businesses have been disrupted. Some businesses are experiencing growth in this disruption. So the question is, how are they able to do that? 100% is all about their business model. Thank you.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. Like I said, James, you should write a book or an artist, but you can just start with articles. You should just start with articles now and then build it up to a book. So much wisdom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to thank the audience and everyone my co-hosts who joined us for this conversation. Just to give people shout out. Lynn on Facebook is saying this has been illuminating and heartwarming. I'm glad I came. I walk away recharged and with new perspective. Yeah, it's the reason why we do these conversations. I see Evans Dichu, he's saying, thanks, James, for the great knowledge and inspiration. Just to mention a few more, let me see. Good. Mary Mbugwa is saying, thank you, Travis. Naomi and James, very insightful and awakening. Yeah, it's the reason we do this. And like I said in the very, very beginning, at AMI, we exist to support businesses to thrive. And we know sometimes all you need is a little motivation. All you need sometimes is to just see people who've been able to make it, people who their businesses even now are still thriving, and just to encourage you that even you can do it. Yeah, so we will equip you with the practical tools that you need to do that. So go to our website and just take advantage of all those resources that are available now for free, and continue to join this conversation. Yeah, this was great having you. Thank you for your time, and continue to engage with us. We might be taking a short break with Africa Thrive Live this coming week, but we will definitely be back just to bring you great content and continue to empower you to thrive. Yeah, so stay tuned on our social media, continue to follow us, and until next time, goodbye and good night. Bye.